So hi everyone, we are TIG1 and our research Raising Awareness project was based off of retaining teachers of color for our Raising Awareness project by
Jillian Cornell.
Alexander Sanchez.
Karina Serna.
Stephanie Nguyen.
And JC Aguirre. The problem and root causes of this issue. The problem that we saw, although there is an abundance of credentialed teachers in the education system, there is unknown absence of minority educators. Specifically, students of color are impacted. They feel a sense of underrepresentation and unwelcomeness. Cultural differences affect students' drive to learn, and they grow to misunderstand the concept of their identities. The root causes of this is that educators feel the consequences of racial prejudice. White privilege and supremacy limit their opportunities, and the difficulties of handling the expectations of being a teacher of color.
So the first and major portion of our Raising Awareness project is the website that we created. When organizing our information, we wanted to display our research on a platform that would be easily accessible for viewers, especially since this is an asynchronous class. This is why we decided to create a website. That way all of the information we had for our research could be accessed by anyone without us there to present it. And then here is our website link. And then we'll go to present this. So on our website, we made it into 4 different categories: the issue, the research, awareness, and action. And then those will all be discussed in the future. So first we have the issue.
The question our group created was, why is there a lack of teachers of color in the education system who are qualified when there isn't a shortage of qualified individuals? And what are the impacts of having more teachers of color on their students? An issue that is continuously ignored, students of color are severely impacted and failed by the education system. Specifically, when schools lack the diversity that connects students of color to their community and peers, they feel marginalized and isolated. Without the representation necessary to positively influence students, cultural differences between teachers and students affect the child's ambition to learn. They grow to misunderstand the concept of identity, normalize their experiences based on racial biases, and feel that teachers will not understand their struggles. In the following years, despite these students' desires to develop changes in the education system, they as educators will more likely resign. These obstacles regarding representation can extend.
Okay, so next we have the research tab. So understanding the issue and possible solutions. Firstly, the issue. The 2 main contributors to this issue are white privilege and white hegemony that take away from the opportunities of teachers of color. Brown discusses how whiteness is a cultural, sociopolitical, and economic hegemonic force that continues to operate nationally and globally. Brown, 2014. Spence researchers reported that 80% of sets they surveyed were white, and a marked contrast to the popular of grade age students, of whom were only were 50% white. Mason Williams, 2020. Looking at the visual to the left, we can see an example of the discrepancy between teachers of color and their students in Minnesota. Firstly, we have Minneapolis, which has 67% of its students are students of color, whereas only 16% of its teachers are teachers of color. In St. Paul, 77% of the students are of color, and only 17% teachers are of color. And then statewide, 29% of the students are of color, and only 4% of the teachers are of color.
Next, we have the solutions. District superintendents need to be in support of retaining more teachers of color in order for there to be more teachers of color. The district superintendent makes major decisions for many schools, and it is vital that they are on board and that these teachers feel connected to them. Thomas, 2020. Additionally, research has shown that a solution to this issue is to increase the college readiness of students of color, since it all starts from there. Diversity in the college classroom for education majors prepares them by making them feel connected to classmates and feel represented in their major. Programs such as Teach for America are the largest supplier of teachers of color for public schools.
Next, we have our awareness tab.
Okay, who should be made aware? I think everyone should be made aware, but most importantly, I think the students and the people at the school district, because the students, everyone has a voice, and the students' voice matter a lot, although it doesn't seem like it, but sometimes it does work out because today generation, students use their phones, their tablets, and like anything that they can find to like organize something that can like help the community out. So for example, like students are always having like protests for something that they want. And if the topic brings enough attention like within the community, then like more voices will come up and more people will hear about it. And it just encourage them to organize a protest to make hiring more diverse teachers possible. And the people at the school district, and when I say that, I mean like the higher of people, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that have like the power to say like, oh, you're fired, or like, oh yeah, you're hired. So this should be made aware to them, because with the helps of the students, the school staff, parents, and other people within the community, it will definitely help this bring to their attention, because like I said, like the students will organize a protest, and that will get the attention of the staff, the teachers, the parents, the community. And like if more voices are like being heard, then there's like a higher chance of making that possible.
And then next we have our action tab, which is our final tab.
So before we can take a plan of action, we had to first do a survey to see where people stood on this issue. So the survey that we conducted, all of the data was collected from high school students who were sophomores, juniors, and seniors, as well as current university students. And we wanted to see how many of those chose the education path. Of those, how many were possibly teachers of color. And then again, additionally, just their views on teachers of color in the white dominated profession. So what we also wanted to kind of compare was with the statistic here for California, there are currently 77% of students who are of color and only 35% of teachers are of color. So from our demographics and some of the results from our surveys, so for how they identify, it was, I believe, 3.5% who identified as white. And from the next result from our survey of what percentage of teachers were white, a majority agreed that at least 75% of teachers were white. So we can see that a majority of students who completed this survey are of color, and a majority of teachers are still white in this profession. For plan of action, so what we saw was a majority did agree that it is important to hire more teachers of a diverse background. Some people did conclude, though, that it might not be as important, just as long as whoever is in the job is able to get it done correctly. 73.4% of the population stated they would like to see a more diverse population of teachers. So how can we do that and help hire and maintain teachers of color? The first thing that we can do is currently support our current teachers. Lots of teachers experience burnout, especially teachers of color, and this is just because of the lack of support that they receive from their administration. So what we can do to kind of help that, just by simply spreading awareness, even if it's on social media, a simple retweet or a like can go a long way. Reposting, doing volunteer work for the schools, attending any protests or walkouts that we see happen with our teachers, attending board meetings and bringing this issue up to the board. And the second one is to embrace diversity. This population is dominated by white teachers, and what we've seen is that children can kind of assume that this profession is only for those of European descent, and that's just because of, again, the majority of teachers that they have grown up with. So just teaching about diversity and embracing the diversity can help us reduce a lot of those inequalities that children see And again, in our education system, it may be stated that it is equal, but it is currently not equitable. The third thing that we can do is just prepare incoming teachers. It may not seem like an issue that is currently for us, but especially for the younger generation, this issue is extremely important. Lots of teachers of color have experienced oppression within the education system. And because they are able to recognize what it can do to some people and overall their outcome in life, we need to better prepare all teachers, training and just letting them know what they can do to help support teachers of color and children of color.
And then now we will go back to our slides presentation.
So going back to talk about our survey, here we have included the link to the survey that we sent out. The implementation of this survey allowed our group to get the most direct information from people and understand how our research question is applicable in the daily lives of students. The results we have received from our survey validate the importance of our research question and the raising awareness about why teachers of color are important and why the discrepancies between white teachers and teachers of color needs to be addressed. We got responses from high school students in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, as well as a variety of college-age students.
Since we don't have time to go over the whole survey, and we kind of like went over that in the website because we only have 1:37 left on the thing, can you just present the looking forward slide real quick? Okay, thank you.
So looking forward, we hope that from our findings from our survey and what we concluded from this, it can just additionally add on to why hiring teachers of color is important in this industry. It might not be necessarily the hiring part, but most importantly, it's the maintaining these teachers in this industry. Again, just because they're not properly being supported. We would recommend kind of going back from our survey results, just currently supporting teachers, current teachers and future teachers. And again, just how to kind of do that, spreading awareness, talking to school boards, attending school board meetings, and providing any additional resources if possible. Again, we want to make sure that we are embracing diversity and we want to be aware of the school's values as well as our own personal values, because often this is a big issue of why these teachers are not staying. It's because of the difference in morals and values.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and we hope you took away some key knowledge.